It's interesting because I actually look at it as I approached business a bit backwards. Knowing what I know now, I don't know if I would have done it the same way. But of course, everything works out exactly as it's meant to.
Hello, listeners. Today is an awesome interview, and I'm really stoked that I get to share this amazing guest with you. His name is Mike Sherbakov, and Mike and I met him for the first time last summer when we took the kids to do a house build in Mexico, and we built 2 houses for 2 families, and it was such an incredible experience with our children, made possible by Mike Sherbakov, who is our guest today, and he has a foundation called the Greatness Foundation, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of all about that. You're going to hear about it in the interview as well, but I want to tell you a little bit about him before we dive into the interview. He will share more about some of where he's been and how he got to where he is at today. And then I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about on this show. So he's an entrepreneur, he's a philanthropist, and he consults with a lot of growing and successful social enterprises, and he works with a lot of purpose-driven startups and industry leaders alike. And he's set up programs for companies like Lululemon. He set up a national community engagement program for Fitbit and a mindfulness program for Equinox. So he's helped develop these incredible programs for really big companies that you know of. And then from all of this consulting, he has this great story, which I will let him tell in the interview, of what led him to creating in 2016 the Greatness Foundation. And the Greatness Foundation is its mission is to create a better world. It's as simple as it sounds. And he's got this great, I believe it's trademarked. It says, do great things. So we have in our family, we all have t-shirts that say do great things, and hats and all these cool things, because we believe in doing great things. In fact, if you look at social media of our family, you'll see a lot of do great thing t-shirts and hats. But it's the first of its kind because it's a global community that's really passionate about making a difference and continues to grow through his free content and engaging programs and sustainable nonprofit impact projects around the world. And it's just amazing to hear the things that he's done and the impact that he's had, and also talking about the difference between income and impact. What I really love about this interview, though, is that Mike gets really real with us about the challenges. And it's not a story of, hey, I was faced with these challenges and here I am and it's just smooth sailing. No, it's about, wanting to do bigger things and making a greater impact, and the challenges that come on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. They're there all the time. And what that does to us as humans, and especially as entrepreneurs, and how we question ourselves. And I just appreciate that so much, because it is a real thing. And no matter how big or great or successful you are, the things that you are doing become, there's struggle along the way, and there are challenges. And the biggest part of the challenges and struggle is the self-doubt, or how we feel about ourselves. So we talk a lot about getting through that and how that does happen. And we also talk about purpose. And it's the question that a lot of people ask: what is my purpose? How do you find your purpose? What if I want to start a business and I want it to be about my passions, but I'm not quite sure what my passions are? Well, there's a way to figure that out, and it's really, really simple. And Mike shares that with us. It's an incredible interview. Love this guy so much. Him and his son had such a huge impact on our family, and they've remained friends, which is so great. And I'm just so happy that he came on our show to talk to you about backstage business. So enjoy the interview. Hey, Mike, I'm so excited that you are joining me today. It's been a little while since I've seen you, but I'm just so grateful that you are on the show and that our listeners get to hear all about you and all the amazing things that you do.
Oh, thank you, Summer. Really grateful to be here.
So, we first met. Let's see, that was last summer. We did our first house build with you. We brought all of the kids, and it was such an incredible experience for all of us. And from that moment, I think not only Mike and I, but all of our kids fell in love with you and your son and everything that you do.
Oh, thank you. And it's interesting. We've been doing those house builds for 6 years now. We actually just got back a few days ago from another one this past weekend, and they don't get any less impactful and exciting for me. And so it's just, I love hearing the stories of the kind of impact it's had on other people, the connections it's created, and obviously you and your family being one of those amazing things that kind of brought us all together with the underlying value of wanting to make a difference. I think it's a really special thing. So thank you.
Well, I'm just so grateful that there are people like you in this world who bring others together, because what was so great was the different stories and reasons that people were participating. And I loved that because it was such a variety of reasons. Some people, it was just, I've been wanting to do this, or I come as much as I can. And for some people it was, I'm going through a really tough time, and this is something that really made me feel purposeful in my life. And I would love to know, and I know it doesn't feel like this for you probably, because I know you love everything that you do, but it is quite an undertaking to do all of the things that you do. So I'd love to hear the story of what brought you into creating the Greatness Foundation and, working with people that have businesses with such a purpose and a mission. Why was this so important to you?
That's a great question. And it's interesting because I actually look at it as I approached business a bit backwards. Knowing what I know now, I don't know if I would have done it the same way, but of course, everything works out exactly as it's meant to. So it really was about 6.5 years ago where, just like you did last year, I was invited on my first house build. And just like you said, everyone has a different reason of why they come. I had a number of different reasons. One of them being I knew I had always wanted to do something like that. I wanted a community of people who shared the same values. I felt like if I took an inventory of my life and the kinds of things I was thinking about and doing, and the kind of people I'm really proud of everything. And so I was invited on a project, went down, we left Friday morning, and by the time we were driving back in the van on Sunday afternoon, I remember looking out the window, going over that bumpy dirt road that you probably remember too.
Yes, I remember.
lots of dirt roads. And I started crying my eyes out. And I'm not a big crier. And so I knew that there was something there. And instead of pretending like I wasn't feeling this or anything, I started to explore why that was such an emotional experience for me. And I didn't really have the answers at the time, but what I knew is I just wanted to do more of that in my life. I knew I needed to do more of that in my life. So I came back to San Diego and I started asking friends of mine, hey, what do you think about joining me on another project like this? Because again, up until that point, I would say that I, by so many standards, had a lot of things that maybe other people wanted. I had a lot of things by societal standards. I had spent 5 years on active duty in the Marines. I had degrees in kinesiology and psychology. I had started my first business and that was doing really well. I was raising an incredible young man, and all these things that I thought were important and are in some respects I had done. And yet here I am having this incredibly emotional experience, realizing, wow, I just need to start incorporating more of this giving into my life.
Yeah.
And so now to tie it all in of how I feel like I approached business a bit backwards, I didn't have any kind of business model behind it. I wasn't even thinking about that. All I knew is I just wanted to do more trips like that. And I wanted to surround myself with people who shared those same values. And so I did. And, first person signed up for a build. I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And the second person, the third person. And here we are 6.5 years later where this is actually a cool story, and the timing of us doing this interview is really interesting. We opened up our next build less than 24 hours ago, and in less than 24 hours, we raised $10,000 and and the bill is already completely full.
I just saw that and I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's how eager people are to help and join and have that same feeling.
Right. And so that's the beautiful thing about this is now there's this community. The thing that I've always really wanted is to connect with people who share those same values. I mean, there's nothing greater that I think that we can do than to really figure out what our gifts are, give them to the world, and then surround ourselves with like-minded people and support each other on that same journey. And so, I approached it as I'm going to build the community first. We're going to do these projects. And then only about 3 years ago did I actually start thinking, okay, now that we've got this community, how can we start creating a business model behind it and offering them the kinds of things that they may need to include, a curriculum on how to start a business that matters to them, and mastermind programs and all these things that we incorporated later. So most people approach business, so if I'm going to create, the business model first, we kind of did it backwards. We built the community first and then asked them what it is that they wanted and needed, and gave them those programs.
And so was this different because you've done consulting? You were doing consulting before this, correct?
Yes, and I actually still am. If there's a really values-aligned and purpose-driven organization, then I do consulting with them. And that's why at the time I was building the Greatness Foundation community, I really didn't need to look at it from a business model perspective, because the consulting and everything else I was doing was kind of paying the bills. So this was really, it started as a passion project. And now what's really cool is I found that intersection of impact and income, which I think is something that we're all capable of, is not just being income driven, not only impact driven, but where is that beautiful intersection where we can make money doing what we love. And now that's really what Greatness Foundation has become. So the consulting and everything is actually under the Greatness Foundation umbrella at this point.
That is so awesome. And I know that you help other people figure out what it is that, what is their purpose and what is the business that they might want to build that fulfills that. How do you help people do that?
Yeah, well, I really believe figuring out what our purpose is and passionately pursuing that is the steps to living a meaningful and purposeful life. I always reference Dr. Bronnie Ware, who studied patients in their last 8 weeks of life. Are you familiar with her, Summer?
Yes.
Yeah. So you probably know this, that she asked these men and women of all ages what it is their biggest regrets are as they're laying on their deathbed. And the number one regret of the dying is, I'd wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And that to me is profound, because there's a tremendous amount of clarity, wisdom, and truth that comes from someone that's facing death. And they're saying, I wish I had known what my purpose was and I did something about it. So yeah, we absolutely, the first step in that is getting clear on what your purpose is. And a really easy way to do that I've found is asking 3 really important questions. The first one being, what are your passions? The other way to ask that is, what kinds of things make you come alive? What kinds of things are you interested in? What are you curious about? The second question is, what are your strengths? What are you good at? What are your God-given abilities? What do other people tell you that you're really good at? And the third one is your connection to the world. What of all of the causes, of all the social, environmental challenges our world is facing, what is one that you feel really strongly connected to? There's usually one that kind of pulls at our heartstrings a little more than the others.
Yes.
And I always say that, that is the blueprint. It's not a coincidence that you like the things that you like, that you're good at the things that you're good at, that you care about the things that you care about. And if we only give ourselves the opportunity to start thinking and asking those questions, then we can arrive at, oh my gosh, this is what I feel like my purpose is. This is what I feel like I'm here to do. Summer, I was telling you 6.5 years ago, I was living by all standards and by anyone from the outside looking in, what would be a really good life. And yet deep down and intuitively, I knew that I was capable of more. In fact, at that moment, if God forbid something happened and that was my last day, I don't know if I would have been proud. At this point in my life, I'm 34 years old. I can say that I'm proud of the life that I'm living. If something happens, I know I'm doing what I'm here to do. And really, I just want ultimately everyone to have that kind of feeling of they're doing what they know they're here to do.
Why do you think it's so hard for people? It's like a block. You can ask them the questions, what are you passionate about? And there's people that will literally just, I'm not really sure. I don't know. I mean, and like you said, it takes something really profound, whether you're facing death or you've lost somebody, something to really shift that perspective before they can even begin to think that way. Like, what do you think is happening that just blocks them from really connecting with that?
Yeah, there's a few things. The first one is, and I love that you touched on death and having a loved one near them pass. That I'll talk about that in just a minute, because I do find death can be a powerful catalyst to really live life.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there are a few things. The first one is, if someone says, "I don't know," if I'm ever talking to someone, I go, "Well, if you did know, what would it be?" So
I love it.
I think that the first step is asking the question. And I really do believe that the quality of our life depends upon the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. And you remember from being on the house build with us last year that on Friday night, when we get the whole group together and we talk about passions and what someone's starfish is, and without giving it away, someone's going to have to come and join us so they can hear the whole starfish story. But
yes,
a lot of people say, "Well, I don't know," and that's okay, actually, because you're asking the question and the seed is planted. But then to go a little bit deeper and ask, the deeper questions, like I mentioned, of what, okay, if you don't know, what is it? What are you passionate about? What do you like? Everyone likes something. What are you curious about and interested in? Everyone's curious about and interested in something. And so just kind of going a little bit deeper, I feel like I don't know becomes a bit of an easy out. I believe it's something that someone would say if they really don't want to look any deeper. And to your point on death and losing a loved one, unfortunately, I found that there are three powerful catalysts that encourage someone to ask these important questions. The first one is death. Either a close call with your own health, someone close to you, a family member. I was being in the Marines the second year I was in. I kind of joined at the peak of the war, and I remember very clearly, going to funeral after funeral and just always being reminded, hey, death is a very real thing. That became a big catalyst for me. The second one that I found is a rock bottom for someone. And it could be with drugs, it could be with alcohol, it could be a financial rock bottom, it could be a relationship rock bottom. Someone can be in a relationship for years and years, and all of a sudden everything they've known about this person or their world just comes crumbling down. And it's like when someone's at their lowest point, they start really realizing what's important.
Yep.
And then the third one that I found, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is actually travel. And just by experiencing other cultures and getting outside of the bubble that you're in, for me personally, living in San Diego, we have a really great life here. And even, especially for my son being raised here, it's so important for me to constantly take us out of this and see how other people are living and what other cultures are like. And so, I found those to be three really powerful catalysts. And so if someone really doesn't know what their purpose is, maybe they can take a trip somewhere, right? I don't want anyone to have to experience death or a rock bottom, but a new novel experience where they get to explore outer landscapes in order to explore inner landscapes and ask themselves those important questions. I find that those are great catalysts.
I love that. I love that analogy, and it's so true, because there's so much that we don't realize we have inside. And it takes something else, something that you're not seeing every day, getting outside of the same routine and just seeing the way other people live or whatever that experience is, to actually open up so much. And it's such this incredible feeling when you see that, and when you connect with that other part of yourself that you didn't even know was there. And all of a sudden you have these genius thoughts of like, oh my gosh, there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. That's
absolutely right. And I always talk about the fact that we have the answers within us. It's without it, sounding woo-woo or way too out there. intuition is really powerful, and the blueprint for our purpose and for happiness and fulfillment is already within us. Like I said, pretend for a moment that the things that you're curious about and interested in, the things that you feel connected to, the things that you're good at, pretend that that isn't a coincidence, but
Right.
rather it's a blueprint for you to follow. And so what's really cool is we don't, have to go out looking for it. A lot of people are out there looking for, well, what's my purpose? Where can I find happiness? Is it under this rock, or is it, in this relationship? No, it's already there if we just get quiet enough to hear it, to feel it, and just to listen to what it's telling us. It just feels really great that we have that blueprint, and then we're guided through the process. We have all the support in the world.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of my, something that I really love is the quote, "A crisis is a terrible thing to waste."
Yes.
And it's just, it's so true. And, it's hard in the moment to see it that way, but looking back, you can see how much you've learned from it if you choose to. And I'd love to hear, some of the challenges that you went through in building this business and building the Greatness Foundation. And because, I know what our listeners are hearing is, we started and then people started joining, and now here we are 6.5 years later. But what were some of the obstacles and challenges that happened along the way?
Yeah, I love that. And it's important, I think, to talk about that, and also that to be very clear that those are continuing to happen.
Yeah.
These feelings of the self-doubt, of not being sure, the challenges, they continue to happen on a daily basis. And for me, I believe in the mission so much that anytime those come up, it's like the connection to the mission is so much bigger. It allows me to really turn the challenges into opportunities. I go, okay, great. This is what we're being challenged with right now. Let me move forward anyway.
Right.
And so let me think of what some of the biggest challenges would be. Well, let's say when I first started and was getting people signing up for these projects, there's a certain fundraising goal that we have to hit. And for the first 4, now, because now we're at 20 plus, for the first 4, we didn't hit that fundraising goal. First of all, I wasn't inviting people to donate enough, because I didn't want to ask. And so people wouldn't donate that much. And we got to the end, and, there would be all of a sudden this, $5,000-$6,000 gap in fundraising, and I would just pay out of pocket. And so I go, wait, this isn't sustainable. And so, there was this challenge of, well, I can't keep doing this forever. And so, finding the kind of, how do I bridge that gap? And it was both a combination of getting corporate sponsors on board, getting individuals to commit to a donation that can start to cover more of whatever the fundraising goal is. As well as now, like I said, there's more and more people coming in. So we've kind of been able to stay true to that mission and grow this larger community. So that was the first one, is I go, is this thing really sustainable? Because I'm putting in a lot of time, effort, and energy into this. Is it going to continue to make sense?
Yeah.
What are some of the other big challenges along the way?
That, I think, is where a lot of people stop. Unfortunately, they start to say, it's okay, this isn't making sense now, and they feel stifled, and so they don't continue on. What made you say, I'm going to figure this out? Was that just the drive and the mission?
It's the mission for me. Yeah. And I really believe, and this is we teach this in our entrepreneurship training, why purpose is so important, because the reality is the challenges are always going to come up. I mean, the reason why I'm, even thinking of which ones I want to talk about is because they show up on a weekly basis. I mean, as we have our team meeting, we just had one this morning. We consistently challenges. I just don't know how many of them, how much time we have to talk about all of them.
Yeah.
But the reality is I think that if the purpose is clear, if the mission is clear, then whatever comes up, I've just found that we can work through it. I would, to be fully just transparent, raw, and vulnerable here, that the biggest challenge is the self-doubt.
Yeah.
that comes up. And it's and it's not the doubt in what we can do as an organization, but it's the doubt in kind of what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And kind of, the imposter syndrome kicks in, to be honest, again, of like, well, who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be making some of these big asks and growing this community? And the bigger of a game we play, the more that kind of shows up of, well,
Gosh, it's so true.
yeah, it's just, and so it's working through that. I found the more that I can just kind of, it's helpful. The organization, the Greatness Foundation, becomes a bit of an anchor for me, that when those doubts creep in, I go, no, the mission is so big, I'm just going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad you're saying this too, because this is, I go through the same things, and you have times where you're like, okay, I've got this. This is great. But like the bigger your goals are, the bigger the fear and the self-doubt creeps in, because challenges are just inevitable. Things are going to happen. And we are so quick to question ourselves and our capabilities. And oh my gosh. And the same thing. I mean, I've said the same thing to myself. Who am I to lead this team? Who am I to do this? Who am I to do that? And then you have wins and you go, yeah, it's because I am capable. But then a challenge comes up or a mistake happens, and something you thought was the right thing to do didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. And then it's like, it all comes back.
yeah. And, integrity is my core value. And I'm sure similar to you, this wanting to over deliver on every experience is really important too. So I remember, when we first launched Passion to Profit, which is our entrepreneurship training program within Greatness Foundation, it was version 1.0, because I'm a fan of just move fast, break things, kind of MVP, launch it, rapid prototyping and iteration. And I remember getting some of our first negative feedback of, well, this isn't complete, or, I wish that it was this way, and taking that really personally, to the point where this is where the self-doubt creeps in again, of who am I to be teaching this? There's so many capable, amazing entrepreneurs out there. Yes, I've started businesses and I've sold, too, but like, were they these big enough, ventures where am I the one to be teaching this? Isn't there someone so much better? Like, as soon as some of that negative feedback comes in, and I don't even consider it negative, but just constructive criticism comes in, it really, it threw me off and had me questioning, okay, maybe there's someone else to do this. And I don't want to default to that. I want to default to, no, this is the mission. We're just going to keep moving forward, because we know we provide, right? We provide a really great service and program for anyone who's enrolled.
And see, the reason that you do experience that is exactly why I say you are the best teacher, because you understand, you relate, people can connect with you more, because I say this a lot on this show, but like, I hear and learn from the people who are going through these normal business challenges or these normal life purpose challenges. This is just what happens along the way. And if it's not happening, I think that you're just not, you're not going to grow. These things have to happen in order for you to grow and do bigger and better things. And those are some of the things that I would guess you remind yourself of. I know I have to remind myself of is, hey, these are the things that get people to really trust and want to listen to you, because you have gone through those things and you understand what those challenges are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the hardest things for me to actually have had come to terms with is that, we take a stand for making a difference. We take a stand for, these values, including my personal value of integrity and wanting to over deliver. And if that doesn't align with someone else's values, that's okay. Instead of trying to be there for everyone and, thinking that, oh, everyone must love this training and we're going to have 100% success rate and we're going to have every person that ever learns about it want to sign up. And then that's not the case. I needing to be okay with that we're going to serve who we're meant to serve, and it's okay for the ones that it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And it brings me back to just the people that I have met on the house builds, like you said, there's different reasons that people are doing something, and it doesn't exactly have to. I get what you're saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I love it. So what are some other, so I know about your consulting. I know about your Passion to Profit, which is so awesome. I love that you're doing that. Was that something new that you started this last year? Or maybe it's 2 years?
Right when I met you, we had launched our first cohort.
Okay.
Yep. So we're about a year into it now, and we're just constantly refining the training. I think we're on version 5.0 now, consistently making the content, the curriculum, the videos, the worksheets, the resources available better and better. And, the reason that I started that was because, I studied kinesiology and psychology in my undergrad, and I never studied business. And I remember when I started my first business, which was a fitness company. It was called HMS Fitness, which is Heart, Mind, Soul, and also my son's initials, who Holden Michael
Yes.
Sherbakov. And I had no idea what I was doing. And as I would go down this journey of entrepreneurship, I learned a lot on my own. A lot of YouTubing and Googling, a lot of trying to connect with other entrepreneurs who I thought were doing something similar to what I wanted to do and picking their brain. But I really couldn't find a go-to entrepreneurship training available, specifically one that was centered around purpose. In fact, if I remember going to the bookstore and looking at the top 10 business books, and they were all great concepts. You had the Simon Sinek, and the Tim Ferrisses, and they were, I think they were great overall concepts maybe on leadership or on business management, but there wasn't anything that was kind of a step-by-step playbook for get clear on your purpose, and from that space, here's exactly how to build a business step by step. And of course, it doesn't guarantee success, but it's just what I've learned from all of these years, now almost a decade of entrepreneurship, as well as interviewing and being connected and in the same circles and mastermind groups as a lot of other amazing entrepreneurs, really learning what's the best possible model that would set someone up for success in taking their passions and turning them into that intersection of income and impact. So that's the genesis of the program. That's why I felt like it needed to be created.
So I know that a lot of our listeners do create something just like you have, where it's it's course material, and it's based on something that they have learned and that they've become an expert in and want to share. How was that journey for you, putting all of that content together? I know you're on version 5.0, but was there times where, because I think as entrepreneurs, we can, we want things to be perfect before we start putting out that content to our audience. Did you have that challenge of, I'm not ready, or I want to make it perfect? Or did you just kind of say, I have to just put this first version out and we'll just keep going? I know that's what you did, but how was that experience for you?
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I would say that it took me, I wish I could say as soon as I thought of it and knew it needed to be created, it happened. I probably waited a year until gathering up enough courage and to say, you know what? No, I'm the one that needs to make this happen. And it was, of course, there was this research phase of reading all the books and seeing what's out there and looking at all the courses and figuring out what makes us different and what we can do better. But that almost, if I'm being honest with you, was a little bit of an excuse to not create it. And if I could go back, I'm not a big regret person, but I would say that I would have started so much sooner. I just would have put it out there, because maybe I could have been on version 10.0 by now.
Right.
So there was, I did wait. And then it finally got to the point where I said, look, if this is what we're teaching people to live in alignment with purpose. And clearly this is what I must do right now. It's time to put this out there. And so even the first version was not great. And I wanted to make that very clear. I think a good model, I don't know how many of the listeners here do something similar to this, but I think a really great model is to create whether it's a course or, a training or anything like that, is to create the MVP and the minimum viable product to share, tell the community or whoever is going through that first one that it's kind of this beta program that they're getting for a discounted rate. So what we did is we essentially pre-sold the course before it was completed. And I really like that model because it's a great opportunity to get feedback, and those who are going through it know that it's not perfect. So I tell them, look, you're going to get it for about half the price. You're going to get much higher touch points. You're going to have coaches that are part of this, that are going to help you with support and accountability. And we're going to be learning this whole process together along the way. Like, I know the framework of what I want to teach, but I want to get your feedback on what works well. What should we include? What should we take out? What worked well? What didn't? Could we make it more succinct? Do we need to expand? It was learning for us. And we got so much great feedback from our first cohort and then our second and our third. And we just cannot continue to improve on it. And each subsequent cohort, the pricing would just be a little bit higher. We started, I think, at a $397, so $400 price point, and now we're up to so it's $997 because we've gone through this several times.
Yeah, and then you're gathering case studies and testimonials and really hearing back what the experience has been.
Exactly. Yeah, I forgot to mention that one of the asks in the first cohort enrolling was, we'd love to get your honest feedback after this. And if you loved the course and the program, we'd love a testimonial. And so, yeah, we had 16 or 18 people going through the first program and the first cohort. And we had the testimonials, and more importantly than the testimonials, the actual results. The kinds of businesses that people launched from that, because they speak for themselves, right? We just get to put their website up and we get to feature them as our case studies. So yeah, they went through the program and look what they've created in 6 weeks.
And I think it's so important for people to hear that because, some people don't go through with it because they're like, well, I don't have the testimonials yet, or I don't have the, client results or whatever it is that they're looking for. And they're looking for this, like I said earlier, this perfect product, that has, this is what you're going to get. And I love that you offered at a discounted price, tell them that they're involved, with something new. And I think that actually gets people more dedicated as well because they get to be a part of something at its, infant stages, which is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I mentioned, we had built this community and the community was asking us for whether it was events or programs. And so we launched this program, and I remember, creating a little Facebook Live. It wasn't this perfectly produced video or anything, and just saying, hey, I'm getting ready to launch this program, Passion to Profit. Here's what it's like. It's probably going to be a little bit messy. We're going to figure it out along the way. We're going to learn together. But what I promise is I'll give you everything I've got. Because I think our intention is so important. My intention was really to help as many people as possible turn their passions into something that's creating income and impact for them, right? And just having that intention alone, I think carried it through. I went above and beyond, not because I felt like I had to, but because I wanted to. I wanted to just deliver on, on this kind of promise to them of let's do this.
Well, and I love also how you said you were giving them what they were asking for. And so often we'll, in our businesses, build something that we're so excited about that we think is what they want. And I mean, I'm guilty of this in our own business. And we've just launched a couple of new services, and it's all based on what people have been asking for us day in and day out. And it's like, well, why don't we just give that to them? Right. But it's so funny because you're like, but we could do this. And this is so cool. And this is so, and it's funny how I'm even the biggest advocate. I'm always telling people, give your audience what they ask for. But sometimes within your own business, you just don't see things the way other people do. And finally, we just had this aha moment where we're just like, gosh, every single person is asking us to the point of, I will buy this all day long if you can do this or that for me. Like, okay, well then let's just do it. Yeah,
let's do that.
So yeah, I mean, they're simple things, but I love that. You also have a mastermind. Is that correct?
We do. Yeah. The Greatness Group, which is something that's pretty new for us. And again, came from us asking, what do people want? So we started growing this community. We're, between email lists and social media and people, thousands of people who have joined us on projects. We have about 70,000 people. So we sent out this survey that just asked them, well, what is the Greatness Foundation to you? What are you working on in your life and your business? What could you use help with? And consistently, we were getting this feedback of community. And specifically, people had ideas of things that they wanted to do in their life and business and didn't really have the support, accountability, or the resources to follow through. So we thought, okay, well, one thing we could do is create events. And so we run these free events monthly now. In addition to that, for those that aren't local, we thought, well, how do we, create that community, the support and the accountability for anyone around the world? And that's where this mastermind model came in. And the reason I'm such a fan of the mastermind is because, I think if people are doing coaching or group coaching, that usually relies on one person who's the coach having all of the resources available to them. And no one has every single, resource. No one knows everything. The cool thing about a mastermind is you bring people together in with similar values who are in, maybe similar places in their lives or businesses, who are oftentimes having similar challenges or have had experienced similar challenges. Someone comes in a hot seat and they talk about what they're currently experiencing. That's a big challenge for them. It doesn't have to be the facilitator, the coach. It can be anyone in that mastermind asking the important questions, the clarifying questions, and then supporting them with the resources they need. So all of a sudden, instead of, people are always looking to hire coaches, instead of just having one person provide the answers for you, you have 10, 12, 15, however many are in this mastermind group that's most effective. And in addition, you now have more support and accountability because you have other people who are kind of relying on you to follow through with what you're following through with. So I'm excited because it's, again, something that was born from what our community asked for. And it's just exciting to see the kind of results people are getting when they have that community and that accountability.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so great. There's so many things that you bring, that you give. I love all of it. I want to make sure that our listeners can find more information about you, and if it's possible, if they can work with you. I don't know if you're accepting new clients. I'm not sure. But let us know, and let us know where we can find more information.
Yeah, thanks, Summer. The best way is just my website, which is MikeSherbakov.com. That's my personal website. It's just a single one-page thing that kind of shares what it is that I'm working on and a way to connect. So if anyone has, I always say purpose-driven, values-aligned individuals and organizations, if there's an opportunity to help them, and it makes sense, then I'd love to have that conversation. So the form is right on the website. And then thegreatnessfoundation.com, or if someone Googles Greatness Foundation, they can find everything else that we were talking about. That includes the free monthly events that we do that are in person. That includes the house build weekends that we do. It includes the retreats that we run, and the mastermind and the Passion to Profit program. So everything else they can find through the Greatness Foundation.
Oh, fantastic. And we will have links to both of those on our show notes and on our blog post and anywhere that you're listening to this. Well, I'm so excited for another house build where we are going to be planning that. And I know that in order to book that, we have to act pretty quickly because they fill up fast, which is so incredible. So awesome. Also needed to let you know that all of the kids and Mike say hello to you and send love to you and hugs.
Oh, please send them my love. Yeah.
I told them I was speaking with you today. They're like, oh, they were so excited.
So
they follow Holden. They all follow each other, and they all just, it's a big love fest. They love each other.
Thank you.
And I'm just so grateful that you shared your journey, all the things that you were doing. And I'm just grateful that you are here on this planet doing all the things that you do and all that you contribute.
Well, Summer, I'm really grateful that we that our paths crossed and that we just get to continue to do great things together. So thank you.
Thank you.